Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite Minister of State for Foreign Affairs in charge of international cooperation, Uganda, Henry OKELLO ORYEM, onto the lectern for his speech. Thank you very much.
Your Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, I am OKELLO Henry ORYEM. I'm the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs for the Republic of Uganda in charge of international affairs. I must apologize for my late speech, but let me take this opportunity to draw your attention to my speech and maybe be able to make you understand several issues about Uganda and more importantly about Africa. For my speech, let me take this opportunity first and foremost, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, to thank the government of the Republic of Turkey for this invitation extended to the government of Uganda to this important summit. I wish to extend the sincere apologies of my president for not being here, but he has asked me to represent the government of Uganda and the peoples of Uganda. I wish to thank the government of the Republic of Turkey for the warm reception extended to me and my delegation since our arrival in this beautiful city and the excellent facilities arrangements made for this conference. The theme for this conference towards a new world order. The theme of this conference towards a new world order, with the sub-theme human-oriented development, inclusivity, technology, ethics, and governance, is a very pertinent and very strived to move our economies towards in order to achieve development agenda of our countries. Indeed, we are witnessing a new world order in the world, where once developing countries have now changed their economies and are now economically strong, becoming economic powerhouses. Once developing countries is now developing to become a powerhouse. The reason why I'm emphasizing this before I go off my speech is I was listening to the presenters here, and I keep hearing so many things around the when I travel, is that China is being taken over by, Africa is being taken over by China. And there seems to be fear amongst the business community, amongst countries, that Africa is for sale and the Chinese are going to take away Africa. Let me assure you, ladies and gentlemen, at least Uganda, I can assure you, Uganda is not for sale to any country, especially China. Uganda is open for business. Uganda welcomes any and everybody who has the opportunity and the will to invest in Uganda. There is nothing particularly special about the Chinese. It's only that Uganda was colonized by the British for over 200 years. We were colonized by the British for over 200 years. And we got independence in 1962. But from 1962 until recently, the British decided, and many of you decided, to ignore Uganda, ignore Africa, and concentrate in your countries and your homes, and not particularly pay attention to Africa. The Chinese, who for many years we saw them as backward countries, putting on round neck suits under Mao Zedong and thinking that they have no capacity, having built the capacity and having become a power country in terms of economic, saw an opportunity in Africa which the Europeans, the Asians, and others had forgotten. And they grabbed the opportunity. You surely cannot see a piece of pearl, you cannot see a piece of jewelry and diamond lying idle in the same place or in a piece of the street for 50 years. You keep passing every day, you go home, you see the diamond sitting or the pearl sitting there. You come back from work, the pearl is still on the same ground. For 50 years, you go to work and come back from work, come to work, and you keep saying, I will leave that pearl there, without the temptation of picking that pearl or picking that jewelry. And this is the opportunity that the Europeans, the Americans, and most of the Western countries lost because they ignored Africa year in, year out, until the Chinese, having seen that Africa had been ignored, jumped in and grabbed it. Now, what did you expect Africa to do when the Chinese came? Did you expect us to chase away the Chinese or ignore them when they came to offer us big projects, massive projects that you, the Europeans, would have grabbed and been responsible today and be the one developing and managing? So the Chinese came to Africa, offered to build railway lines, which none of you wanted to invest in. They have invested in thousands of miles of railway lines through what is called standard gauge railway. This was all of your opportunity. You would have done it. They built the first hydro dams in Uganda. Our energy capacity was only 800 megawatts of power. But the Chinese have come and built for us a hydro dam of 630 megawatts, one dam. They built another dam of 330 megawatts, a second dam. Today, our power capacity is enough to supply our whole country without the need of load shedding and sharing power between regions. The most important thing we're doing now is to reduce the cost of our energy from 11 cents per unit to 5 cents per unit in order for industrialists to be able to afford power. So the Turkish, the other European countries, the Asian countries, please do not fear the Chinese. Do not fear going to Africa for investment. You go in, represent your case, show the opportunities you have, show them that you can do better than the Chinese, and I'm sure you'll be given the opportunity. In Uganda, we have so many Turkish companies that have come and challenged the Chinese on the road constructions, and they've been given the opportunity to build roads because they can match inch by inch, pound by pound, in order to be able to construct roads that are of top quality, European quality, in Africa, in Uganda. So we give them the opportunities. They're Turkish companies. They're involved in construction, and they're giving them opportunities to access government contracts. Uganda recently discovered petroleum. You cannot believe it, but we discovered petroleum in the tropics. Uganda is right in the middle of Africa. 0 degrees centigrade on the equator. Everybody said it's impossible to get petroleum in Africa. It's impossible to get petroleum on the equator. But we have found lots of oil in the middle of Africa, in Uganda. It was all there. For many years, the British knew about it. For many years, the Americans knew about it. But they kept quiet and did not tell us about it. It is only when our children grew up and went and were trained on geology and petroleum exploration, and they identified for us that oil is here. But nobody believed it until a small Australian company came and found the oil and told us there's oil, told the world there's oil, and then the other companies started running. Tallow from UK started running to Uganda to seek that petroleum, and other companies came in. But guess which was the first company to come? Even when we told them there's a lot of oil down here, it was the Chinese who came and sought for that petroleum. Shame that you ignored that opportunity, but still there is a lot of opportunity in the petroleum industry that you can undertake and be part of. We have got minerals that you will not find around the world in big capacities. All the minerals of the world is there. This morning I met a gentleman who told me that he is in Turkey to buy timber. He buys a lot of timber from Turkey, and he takes it to South America, I think it was Chile or one of those countries. And I asked him, how much timber do you buy from Turkey? He said, I buy lots of timber, plain timber, very nice quality, polished. I buy it from Turkey, and I take it to South America, and we build cupboards, tables, and shelves. And I wondered to myself, how much forest does Turkey have compared to the amount of timber that is there in Uganda? How much timber does it have? that one has to buy timber from Turkey and not buy timber from Uganda. I am sure that the timber that is made, the timber that this gentleman buys here in Turkey originally comes from Uganda or originally comes from somewhere in Africa. So why don't you go to Africa, go to Uganda, to the source of that timber, set up your factory, cut the timber under licenses, and be able to produce that timber in Africa cheaper than what you'll make in Turkey, cheaper than what you'll make anywhere, and be able to export it to South America and make a margin or a profit that you cannot imagine. So, my advice, having listened to the worries that you have about China in Africa, is that do not worry about the Chinese. We have seen Turkish technology year in, year out. I've been to Turkey so many times. I've seen how Turkey has transformed over the last 20 years from what was, not the kind of Turkey is today. Today, Turkey is a very developed, high technology country, capacity to produce anything in the world. I'm sure that if you take the challenge and come to Africa, come to Uganda, and market yourself, market your products, your capacity in engineering, your capacity in ICT, your capacity in medicine, your capacity in other products, I'm sure that we will listen to you, we'll give an opportunity to challenge the Chinese, in our backyard in Africa, so that you do not fear to be able to market your products and sell Turkey or sell your country in Africa, and seek the opportunities to be a partnership with what is in Africa. Africa, like any part of the world, has challenges. Africa, like all parts of the world, is challenges. But the beauty of Africa is that apart from the weather, today Africa has a large population of young people who have gone to university. For example, in Uganda, literally, our first language that we learn when you go to schools is English. I was taught English from when I was 5 years old, and I was in a nursery school, at primary school, at secondary school, until I went to university. I only know English as my first foreign language, apart from my mother language. Most of the children in Uganda know English as their foreign language, better than their mother language. So we produce 40,000 students out of university in different fields: medicine, technology, agriculture, social studies, and so on and so forth. But every one of them can speak to you the kind of English that those in England and those in the United Kingdom cannot speak. I lived in the UK for 25 years of my life, and I can assure you that I speak better English and better understood, better pronounced than the people in the streets of London. And most of the people in the Ugandan can speak better English than most of those in the UK. And therefore, to train the Ugandans in industry, to train Ugandans in opportunities that are available cannot be a challenge, because you are dealing with individuals, young people who are energetic, young people who are enthusiastic, young people who like to learn, and young people who like to take the opportunities that are there. So in terms of human capacity, there is no problems in terms of human capacity in order for them to be able to give you the kind of results that you want. After all, if these young people can work with the Chinese and be able to have these interpreters between them and the Chinese, the Chinese language is very complicated. How easy will it be for these young people to work with you, the Turkish, and other people? I'm sure they'll find it even more easier. These young people from the universities, they'll find it more easier to work with you, the Turkish, and work with you from other countries rather than the Chinese. So ask yourself, if a young graduate from a university in Uganda who have studied ICT, who have studied engineering, who have studied medicine, who have studied all this, education at university, can work with the Chinese, surely they can work with me, who is a Turkish, and work with me with the European more convenience. I want to thank, therefore, I would wish to continue. I've been given a very short time, but I wish to continue informing you that the opportunities that are in Uganda, the opportunities that are in Africa are enormous. In the case of Uganda, We have had a constant stability for the last 31 years plus under the leadership of President Museveni. At one time, there was a person called Idi Amin, which gave Uganda a bad name, and some of you must have heard about Idi Amin, but I can assure you the times and eras for Idi Amin is now gone. Today, the growth margin of Uganda is 6%. Growth annual in for the last almost 15 years, the average growth of 6%. Our inflation has been constantly below 4%, and our economy is a free currency exchange. In Uganda, there is no currency restrictions. You come with your $1 million, you go back with your $1 million. You come with your $1 million, you make $2 million. Good luck with you, you can take it back $2 million. We don't have any restrictions on the money you bring in the country and the money you take out of the country. If you came with $1 million and you make $10 million, good luck to you if you want to take it out of the country. Nobody will ask you or restrict you and ask you, why are you taking those $10 million out of the country? It's your money. Provided you can pay the taxes, provided you pay all the other costs. No, even if you choose to carry that money through the airport and you think it's your money, at the airport, if you show the receipt that you withdrew the money from the bank, the $1 million, even at the airport, they will not ask you, why are you carrying $1 million? If you are caught at the other side at Turkish airport, that's your problem, not the problem of Uganda. Why? Because you came to Uganda with $1 million, you invested $1 million in Uganda, you paid your taxes, you employed young men and young women. The young men and young women paid taxes from their salaries. They bought goods and services that resulted in paying of VAT. So the roll-down effect from your investment, that a young man gets a job, the young man pays taxes from his salary, and then he goes and buys goods and services which has VAT. So therefore, the results continue on and forth. So Uganda is open for business, a stable country right in the middle of Africa, surrounded by 5 other countries. We have a population of 40 million, but I can assure you that the population is not only 40 million. She's telling me that I have to get off the platform, but I'm not leaving the platform. Uganda has a population of 40 million people. But the beauty of Uganda, I want you to Google the country Uganda. And you see that Uganda is like, if you see the map of Africa, Uganda is like in the heart of Africa. You see where your heart is, and look at the map of Africa, and think, where would my heart be on this map? And that's where Uganda will be. And the beauty of the market opportunities in Uganda is that when you put an industry in Uganda, you don't only sell in Uganda. You have the opportunity to sell in South Sudan. You have the opportunity to sell in Eastern DRC, Congo. You have the opportunity to sell in Western Kenya. You have the opportunity to sell in Tanzania. You have the opportunity to sell in Rwanda and Burundi. That is a market of almost 350 million people. So when you come to Uganda and you read the population of 40 million people only, it's deceptive. Because from Uganda, you can then sell in the region to a population of 350 million. And therefore, under the East African Community Arrangement, any product that you sell in the region is duty-free, customs-free. Therefore, you can sell your goods and services in Kenya and Tanzania, Rwanda, and Burundi without any duty, because we are under one zone called the East African Community, and therefore the opportunities for you to export in that region is opportunities. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I am so glad to have been given this opportunity to discuss with you. I had originally meant to discuss concentrating on the issue of Uganda in particular, but I'm glad that when I walked in here, I heard that the traditional issue of China, but I would like to tell you that yes, China is there, but Africa and Uganda in particular is open for business from the Turkish business community and from any part of the world. Those of you who want to seek opportunity to do business in Africa should try it, and I can assure you that you will not regret, particularly if you can in Africa. In Africa, there are 2 big animals which are very important. There's the elephant. I don't know if you know what an elephant looks like. And then there's the tortoise. The elephant is a big animal. but it moves slowly, gracefully, but eventually reaches there. Very big animal. You might think that it cannot walk 100 miles, but it will walk 100 miles and eventually reach there. The tortoise is a very small animal and very slow in walking. But I can assure you, the tortoise walks slowly, but eventually reach the 100 kilometers. Therefore, when you come in Africa, if you have the patience, and with the will, and with the determination, slowly and surely, you'll be able to walk the 100 miles and eventually be able to reach there and reach your goals and achievements and make your monies and be rich and retire gracefully and make a lot of money for your shareholders, and they'll all be rich, and Uganda also be prosperous because you'll be employing our young people and young men and giving us an opportunity to transfer skills and technology. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. ORYEM, for your inspirational speech about your beautiful country. Now I would like to invite Vice President of Salam International and Honorary Board Member of International Cooperation Platform, Hussam Abu Issa, to present a plaque of honor to Mr. ORYEM.